TGIF, you're on the John Fredericks Media Network and all the John Fredericks radio apps. I'm coming to you live in Washington, D.C. It's Rob Crilly Day. If it's Friday at 8:05, that means we got Rob Crilly coming on. Washington Examiner, let's go. Just go to washingtonexaminer.com/secrets. It's free. I like free. Bernie Sanders likes free. AOC likes free. Mandami likes free. But you know what? It's really good. Not like the Mandami stuff. This is really good. Go to washingtonexaminer.com/secrets. Sign up for his daily insider newsletter. You're going to get a scoop from him you're not going to get from anywhere else. And of course, he's here with us live, sharing little tidbits of inside the Beltway information right here in Washington, D.C. in the bubble. It's good to have you with us, as always. Play Ghostbusters for Clay Fuller in Georgia 14. He's afraid of the Peach Crew. Refuses to come on. Canceled 15 minutes before his segment on Wednesday, endorsed by President Trump for Congress. But he is scared to death of the three women on the Peach Crew. Yeah, you're really going to stand up to people, Clay, when you can't even stand up to Jackie Harlan. I mean, it's so ridiculous. We got Rob Crilly with us. It's all good. This segment brought to you by the Safer Supervision Act, of which you know I'm a big believer in. First Step Act, worked hard on that with Jared Kushner. That's where I got to know him. Great guy. Love that bill. Safer Supervision Act, now getting marked up in the Senate. The logical next step, if you're out on parole and you're under supervision and you're doing all the right things and your parole officer says you're drug-free, you're alcohol-free, you have a job, you're part of your church, you're with your family, there's no need for him to supervise. He makes the recommendation to a judge. Judge looks it over and says, you know, you're right. Let's take him off supervision. And then that parole officer can go focus his energies on where they're needed, someone that's struggling more, that could pose a problem for society. This makes sense. You want to visit safersupervision.com, safersupervision.com for more information. This message paid for by the Reform Action Fund. Okay, joining me now, Rob Crilly. Rob, good to have you with us.
Lovely to be back.
Okay, before we get into insider stuff and your columns, let me just start to get this off my chest. I hate the Mets. They suck. I know you're a Mets fan. You got your hedge funder, Rob Cohen, whatever his name is, spending millions of dollars, right? He stole it from workers. Not really stole it, but, shipped their jobs to China, put them out of a job. They have to be great as a Walmart. That's how they make their money. Didn't make anything, didn't build anything. And therefore, I hope your Mets lose.
Come on, give us a break. I mean, the last owners, they lost all their money in a massive Ponzi scheme. I mean, look, at least we have an owner who cares about the team. Look, the Mets will always find a new way of losing, no matter how much money we have. You guys don't. You're an Astros fan,
yes,
right? You guys aren't going to have to worry about us. We'll mess it up in some way we can't even imagine at the moment. Give us a break. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we don't. Hopefully, we'll meet you guys in the World Series. Then I'm good with it. Then I'm good with it.
That would be fun.
But I think I love my team this season. Very, very. Not often do I go into a season this confident. Everybody's underplaying us, but I love my team. I love our new starting staff. We got the best bullpen in the major leagues. Hader's out for a couple days, but a couple weeks, but he's going to be fine. We got Hader in there. We got Abreu. I love our infield. We're stacked. Outfield's a little bit of a question, but we got some good young players coming up in the wings as well. So I feel really, really good about our team. So I know everybody's picking the Mariners. Screw the Mariners. Okay, let's get to. And Rob knows I hate everybody except the players on my team. That's it.
That sounds about right.
Everybody. I hate their beer. I hate their stadiums. I hate their hot dogs. I hate their fans. I hate their owners. Everybody in my team. As soon as you trade somebody, then I hate them too. Like I hope Bregman goes over 4 every day and hits $150. Right? Can't stand him either. The only guy that I'm okay with is Springer, only because he stutters. So I give him a pass. Everybody else, Framber, I hope he goes 0-15 with the Tigers. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, are we going to go and see the Nats this year? We should go to a game together. Are the Astros coming? The Mets will be here.
I tell you what, I don't go to road games if they play the Astros, but I don't know if they do. They probably do, but we'll definitely see the Mets.
Okay, let's do
you
that.
and I will go see the Mets. Okay, we'll go see the Mets That is a beautiful ballpark.
It is. It's very
Yeah,
nice. It's one of my
it really
favorites.
is.
Yeah.
And Washington is doing the rebuild the right way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we did it for 3 years. We lost 107, 110, and 115 games. It's painful,
Yeah.
but it's a distant memory now.
And the Nats have players that you want to go and see. They might not have the team, they might not have all the pieces, but there's one or two exciting players that
They've
you
got
want to go
some good
watch.
young players,
Yeah.
but they're doing a legit rebuild.
Yep.
I mean, if you're gonna do a rebuild, do a rebuild. Don't do it half-assed because then you end up 81 and 81. You don't get anything. Do a rebuild. Twins are doing it the right way. Washington's doing it the right way. You just do the rebuild. Miami's actually doing it the right way.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Cardinals are doing it the right way. Arizona, not so much. Okay, that's for Saturday.
Do we have to talk about politics at all?
Yes,
Oh,
go.
okay.
I know
All
this
right,
is so
all
much
okay.
fun, right? So you're working on some inside baseball stuff. Give us a scoop.
Well, look, this week was all about the State of the Union, wasn't it? So, my preview, I did a profile of Ross Worthington. Now, he's Donald Trump's chief speechwriter. He's actually been with Trump since 2016. He was in the first administration. You remember it was really Stephen Miller, Vince Haley were the key speechwriters. Anyway, Ross Worthington has stepped up. He's got the top job. Now, the White House hates talking about this. You know what they say? Well, of course, Trump is the main man when it comes to his speeches. They hate any... Look, we know how it works. Everybody has a speechwriter, but they like it to seem as if the principal is the one putting the words down on paper. So you can't actually find much about this guy, Ross Worthington. How did I find out what his method and his process? Well, he gave a deposition after the January 6th violence, 2022, 4 years ago. He was actually called in. They specifically wanted to know about that speech on the ellipse and what happened in the aftermath. But actually, if you go through it, you can find some nice little details about how he puts a speech together for Trump. Now, what he does is he keeps a very close eye. In those days, it was Twitter. Now it's Truth Social. He said he keeps a very close eye on that because he knows the issues then that are important to the president, and also gives a sense of how to express it. Everything, of course, goes backwards and forwards to the Oval Office. He was saying he prints the speeches out, and he will get back the Trump scribble on it, and he has to incorporate all of that. And then another one of the interesting points was when the speech is prepared, when they're close to a final draft, he was asked, is he involved in rehearsing the speech? And his answer was along the lines of, well, to the extent that the president rehearses, yes. Trump's not a man. He's not a man, is he, to over-rehearse a speech? So I suspect that was
a debate prep.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a born entertainer. He's been on television for so long. He doesn't feel the need to rehearse. Now, actually, after the speech was given, I went back to the White House and I said, the standout moments were when Trump asked congressmen and women to stand up.
Oh yeah, that was the key of that whole speech.
So my question was, and you'll laugh at this, my question was, well, who came up with that idea? And the insider I was talking to, I said, look, I know what you're going to say. I know you're going to say it's the president's idea. And he shot back, deadpanned, quick as a flash. Yes, the president invented standing up and sitting down. that was a little sort of self-deprecating moment for the official, because he knows their line is always, well, the president does everything himself. So we had a bit of fun about that. But no, extraordinary speech which will define a lot of the politics of the next months going forward.
You think for the president and for the Republicans, you think that speech might have been their first step in turning the corner to be competitive in the midterms and maybe pull it out?
I have questions about it. I think it was extraordinarily successful with the base, with his supporters. I think where these elections has decided, the 20% or so in the middle, I don't know. It felt like a particularly partisan speech. I didn't hear enough about his plans, and I think an optimistic tone can often help with that. We got 15 minutes of that at the start, but I think beating up on your opponents, maybe the strategy is what won in the presidential election was get your base out. But does that work in the midterms? I'm not so sure when President Trump is not on the ballot himself.
Didn't they look like idiots though? Like not standing up for the USA hockey team. I mean, they're ridiculous.
It's not a good look, and we're seeing the attack ads out there already. The White House was very quick in pushing out the clips. it's not a good look at all for Democrats. I mean, on the other hand, I think part of me would say, well, you know, just because the president says stand up, do you have to? I mean, you know, it's become part of American culture in the past, let's say, 20 years to now have the national anthem at a baseball game. Every sporting event you go to, it's played. But that's not always been the case. Do you always have to stand up? I suspect that's what some Democrats will be arguing. But look, yeah, it looks horrendous not to be standing up for victims of crime for the US hockey team and some of those other things that we heard about.
What else you got?
So what else have I been up to? So I talked to one of the top pollsters, a guy called James Johnson of JL Partners, who had pretty much the most accurate forecast for the presidential election. I talked to him.
This was in 24.
In 24. He had Trump winning the popular vote by 3 points. I think he was a little over on that. I think it was 1.5 in the end.
1.8.
Well, okay. He also was one of the only forecasters who had Trump winning the Electoral College. So look, he knows his beans. So we talked about the midterm elections. What are you looking at? And the pollsters at the moment are really trying to define what the voter universe looks like. And there are some things about the midterms that tend to track. Tends to be more men voting. Voters tend to skew older, both of which are good for getting the Trump supporters out to report to support Republicans. But also you're more likely to get graduates, which could potentially be a problem for getting that Trump base out. He said the unpredictable things are what happens if the tax cuts that we've seen from Trump really start having an effect in people's wallets. There had been talk, of course, of a kind of stimulus check from the tariff bonuses. Don't know what happens to that now with the tariffs being struck down by the Supreme Court. But he said those are a couple of really unpredictable things. People still talk about those stimulus checks that Trump sent out during COVID. People remember that stuff. I mean, it's no surprise. You send somebody a check in the post and people think that's a pretty good thing. So those are the things that could really skew the predictions for the midterms. But overall, he said, pollsters tend to do better in the midterms because you have more engaged voters. The people that turn out tend to have voted before. So those are easier to find. The problem they've always had with the Trump presidential elections is Trump gets out these people who don't really vote, who aren't the sort of people who will pick up the phone to pollsters and give their honest opinions. Midterm voters, he says, are a little easier to find, so he thinks they'll do better. But there are challenges. The other one being, actually, it was super interesting, was his secret sauce is to find voters where they are. It's no good ringing them up on landlines anymore because who's using a landline, right? So
Do we still have landlines?
Well, I don't, actually.
I don't either.
Think, right.
I got 3 phones, right? There's no landline.
Yeah, right. So his one of the things was you have to find voters where they are. And one of the innovative things he does is he uses apps on your phone. So if you're playing a game and you get interrupted and you get asked a bunch of questions, now there's an incentive because I don't know how these things work, but like you're playing some adventure game and you get an extra pot of gold or something for answering a bunch of questions. So he said the next challenge is going to be AI. Like if people are accessing the web through Chat GPT, asking Chat GPT questions, or you're getting those little digests of news on your phone now that AI is providing, somehow pollsters are going to have to find the voters who are accessing the world through AI, and that's the next challenge. Super interesting. Of course, I asked him who's going to win. He said he hasn't the foggiest idea. Ask him in 6 months' time.
But he didn't tell you right off the bat Republicans were going to get smoked.
Well, no, he said, look, that's the conventional wisdom, but he's too canny a pollster. He would want the data, but he would say, of course, you know, if you look back to the analogous years, trend, yeah. That's the expectation.
I think he's spot on though, because you don't know what's going to happen when these refunds hit.
Yep.
And if I was the president with this tariff money, I would just give it. I would give a what do you call a stimulus check now?
Yeah.
And then say, hey, Wall Street, go ahead and sue every working man and woman in this country.
I mean, it's not.
I mean, that is what I would do, yeah. And then that would like just blow everything up because he's like, hey, it's your money. They stole it from you to begin with,
yeah.
So I'm giving it to you. and now you can go sue them. Speaking about suing people, you live in this town, and it's so transitory. It really is. So Jones Day, right? Biggest law
Yeah.
firm in the history of the globe. Now they're all, the Republicans get in. They all love the Republicans. They all love Trump. And then they see, well, maybe Trump's not going to be there. Maybe the Democrats are going to. Maybe we should switch sides early.
That's exactly what's happened. So, have you been following the J.P. Morgan debanking
Of
case
course,
with Trump? Right. So he's
of
suing.
course, I'm following that.
Suing J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon for $5 billion because they ended their banking relationship with him and his
For no
businesses.
reason. You can't do that. You can only do it off of you have the bank fraud, or you're bouncing checks, or you're kiting checks. You just don't do it because I don't like you, therefore I'll debank you, and that's what they did.
So, we've seen in court filings for the first time they've admitted they did end the relationship, and all those letters are dated February 2021. So, within a matter of 3, 4, 5 weeks after that attack on the Capitol. So, the interesting development here is in a bunch of recent filings, you can now look through the papers and you can see which lawyers are representing JP Morgan. Guess what? It's Jones Day. Now, Jones Day got on board with Trump very early during his 2016 campaign. They provided his outside counsel, one Don McGahn. They defended him against all the Russia investigation stuff. When Trump won, they defended him in a series of lawsuits about the election results. They provided dozens of people to go into the administration, Don McGahn being the most famous, becoming his White House counsel. Anyway, Trump leaves office. A bunch of those people all go back to Jones Day. And then guess what? They're now lining up on the opposite side. The most
Cha-ching!
and the most notable, and to me, the most extraordinary name here is Noel Francisco. Remember him from the first term? He was the Solicitor General. So he was the fourth most important lawyer in the whole Trump administration. He was the one who would stand up in the Supreme Court and defend the administration policies. He successfully defended the Muslim ban, for example. He goes to Jones Day, and he's now on the docket for them against Trump. Trump allies absolutely furious. It was Laura Loomer who first raised this question, and she said, "Well, isn't there a huge conflict of interest here? You have all these lawyers who have a really intimate understanding of the Trump legal strategy, now working against him." And I mean, I spoke to some legal ethics experts, and they said, "Well, look, there is a code here, the American Bar Association, Rule 1.9." That lawyers who have worked on a previous case for a client cannot work on, I think the term is a substantially related case against that client. Now, that's the wiggle room, that's the grey area. What does substantially related mean? Jones Day wouldn't respond when I asked them for a comment. The Trump outside counsel wouldn't respond. But look, it's a bad look, but it tells us, I think, what we probably already knew about lawyers, and what you were talking about is they'll work for whoever pays them.
It's just follow the money they have. There's no loyalty. It's just like Rob, these tech bros that are all going to the White House and having the dinners and contributing to the ballroom, and they bring their wives, and they go to the Oval Office and they sign hats, and right, the minute the Democrats win, they'll switch sides in 30 minutes. And then they'll be with the Democrats, and they'll be censoring you again. Whatever's going to make them the most money in Silicon Valley. That's why I don't trust any of them as far as I can throw them.
Well, not everybody has the integrity that we have. But look, they're running a business.
We do.
I get it.
Well,
they're
we
running
run
a
businesses
business.
too, but we have integrity. Like, we actually believe stuff, right? I mean, you're a great journalist because you believe in what you're doing. You believe in your craft, and you're a gifted writer. And, I put stuff out. I believe in it. I mean, if I do a bus tour for somebody, it's because I believe in what they're doing. Otherwise, you couldn't do this for
Well,
12 hours a day.
I guess you look at, say, Jeff Bezos and what he's done at the Washington Post. I think, I think one way of looking at it, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the way I look at it, is you've just got to understand him as a businessman doing whatever is best for his bottom line. And I think that then when he bought the Washington Post, he was hailed as the savior of journalism, savior of a Washington institution. I mean, that, I think, naive. why does a billionaire will buy a newspaper? It's not because he wants to look after journalists, or I've worked for the Murdochs of this world. I've worked for newspaper owners who've gone to prison for fraud. You don't buy a
Oh,
newspaper.
the guy in Canada, Black.
Conrad Black,
Conrad
he
Black.
was the owner of the Telegraph back in the day.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, but my broader point is, these people are not like us. That's why we're not billionaires.
Except Elon Musk, because he bought X, he's still losing money, and he did the right thing with it. So there's always one exception, but he's a multi-billionaire. But Bezos, look, I think he bought it, and the thing was just bleeding out money, and they didn't have any subscribers. I mean, what was he losing? Like 600 million a year? It was some enormous amount of money.
So they've just put out the 2025 figures, 100 million, but that's on the back of 77 million the year before, about 100 million. And who's going to continue to do that?
Add it all up, he's lost $600 million.
I mean, as a journalist, I have a lot of friends at the Washington Post. I know plenty of people who've lost their jobs. It's incredibly sad to see the foreign coverage go. A lot of the metro coverage has been cut right back.
There's no metro coverage.
Sports desk has
No
gone,
metro
has gone
coverage.
incredibly sad. But I think ultimately for years, the Washington Post has just been getting absolutely crushed by the New York Times. So they can't continue to be a less good version of the New York Times. Something had to change.
That's because the Times has cooking and the crossword puzzle. That's the two things that make them money.
But this is the truth, right? We used to get a newspaper delivered every day at home, right? It had everything. It had your TV programs, it had your cartoons, it had your cookery stuff, and I read it. I read all the sports pages. Now you can try and do that, but if you try and do it in America, you're up against the New York Times, which has Wordle. So what are you going to do? I think if the Washington Post was to kind of focus in on its politics, on some key core areas, and find its niche, then it survives. But it's been a really bloody and horrible round of cuts, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I don't think they're going to survive. I mean, I just don't see the math. I mean, nobody subscribes to them, the online subscriptions are down. And I mean, the only reason that I paid the online subscription.
Good for you.
For two reasons. One, because my favorite writer there was a Washington Post is Natalie Allison. She's my favorite, so I just paid to get her. And then also to get the Metro coverage. But now the Metro coverage is gone.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't know, I'm running for Ward 2 DC GOP chairman. Thanks for the endorsement. And I've got a big event coming up on March 16th. Rob's going to be there, even though he stiffed me on my last one, kicked me to the curb like roadkill. This time he's coming. It's in DuPont.
Can I just be absolutely clear? I consider you a friend. I stay out of the politics of it, and I'm not endorsing
It's not
you.
politics. You don't have to endorse me. You just come to my event. Diana Harshbarger is going to be there. That's a story. Brandon Beach is going. He's the treasurer. He's running for Congress in Georgia. See, I've got news stories for you.
Okay, all right. That
Right?
sounds good.
I'm handing it to you right
Well,
on a silver platter.
That's the night before St. Patrick's Day. I mean, there's
Well,
going to be
that's the night before. And then you
Okay,
go out to St.
okay.
Patrick's Day. You get hammered like we all do. But then you're good. But I'll see you on the 16th. Okay. Look, here's what you want to do. WashingtonExaminer.com/secrets. Sign up there. WashingtonExaminer.com secrets. Sign up there.